What I want to talk about on the 8 limbs, on the 8 parts of enlightenment, as for the yoga philosophy, of course, we're talking about the classical yoga of Patanjali and the 8 limbs of classical yoga, right? So it starts with yama niyama, asana pranayama, pratyahara dharana, dhyana and samadhi. So those are the 8 limbs of yoga of Patanjali. And I have been having a lot of breakthrough about that lately because, as you know, I work mostly with hypnotherapy. And for but my life started with India and Eastern philosophy. But, and my father being a Freudian psychologist was all like this opposites, right? And just recently, 8 years ago, I started working with hypnosis and trying to understand more in more depth the workings of the mind as not by books, but what I see in my work with hypnosis. I have yoga philosophy when you start with yama niyama, asana pranayama. So that's talking about the physical body and the conduits, how we live our lives when nobody's looking with yama niyama. So are the virtues, the do's and the don'ts, right, of living. See the last parts of this, the last limbs, which is pratyahara, dharan, dhyana, and samadhi. Those 4 are talking about the deeper workings of the mind and consciousness. So pratyahara, dharan, dhyana, and samadhi are different levels of hypnosis. And I teach a workshop called Hypnosis for Evolution, and use self-hypnosis to gain sovereignty about our own life, because I believe that we all have been hypnotized by society, by ruler, and buying this product and looking this way. So all that is massive hypnosis. And someone out there, up there, wants to control the masses, that we continue being, sorry for the word, stupid. So in order to continue enslaving the people, and in a way of how we can learn how to get out of the loop of the matrix through self-hypnosis, which I found out that is yoga in the end. We can then gain this mastery over our own lives. Patanjali doesn't talk about enlightenment when he talks about samadhi. There's different interpretations for that. So pratyahara is the absence of the senses, when we can withdraw the senses. So imagine that you're watching a movie and you're talking to a friend, or a friend is talking to you. You're watching the movie and a friend is talking to you, but you're not really listening because all your senses is focused on the movie you're watching. Or when you're driving, whatever you're doing, that is this repetitive pattern. We call this a hypnotic state, okay? So hypnosis is focus awareness. This is all what there is. So when I say that we have been hypnotized by society, it's because they make us so busy that we cannot have time to really think and act for ourselves. We're constantly working on the automatic pilot. That automatic pilot is a hypnotic state. After pratyahara comes dharan. Dharan is concentration. So in hypnosis, a guide will, in the old times, they use a clock. Look at the clock, look at the spiral in the wall, look at the dot in the wall, listen to my words, and they'll guide you through a little trip. Those are concentration. So you're concentrating in one point. You're concentrating on the road you're driving. You're concentrating on the movie you're watching. So this is a concentration, is the second step to get into hypnotic state. Pratyahara, dhara, dhyan, and then comes dhyan in the 8 limbs of the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. And dhyan is meditation. Dhyan or meditation is when the object of meditation and the meditator dissolves into oneness. This is all what meditation is. Meditation occurs when the meditator and the object of meditation become one, and then samadhi. comes. And samadhi is that state of union or dissolution. Is when there's no meditator, there's no object of meditation, and there's not meditation itself. It's just the nothingness, the void. So that is samadhi. Go deeper into that. There's many different types of samadhi. There's nirbija samadhi, sabija samadhi. Some people say that samadhi is enlightenment. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, they call Kalvalya. He doesn't speak about enlightenment, but he talks about Kalvalya. So Kalvalya is liberation. So, and it literally translates as solitude or aloneness. This is what Kalvalya. It is explained as resting upon oneself. When you rest upon yourself, when you can sit in your own being, in your own self, that is Kalvalya. So you can say that then when you are enlightened, when you can sit and rest upon yourself. Isn't that awesome? So those are the final states and limbs of yoga, as by the classical Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So when you are in the state of void or oneness, some people say that there's just nothingness and void and darkness. But other people say that then is when you can see and feel and perceive beyond your five senses. In transpersonal psychology, my teacher Stanislav Grof called that the holotropic states of mind or consciousness. Holotropic into wholeness, going into wholeness is five senses. So you can see the invisible worlds. In those states of hypnosis or meditation even, you can commune with guides. You can listen to the voice of your guides. You can listen to the voice of your higher self, your inner healer. You can maybe listen to messages from people that has transcended this material world. And through dissolution, piercing through the veil of the materiality and going into what quantum physics now is calling the unified field. So what is the unified field? For the ancient, they would call that Akasha, the ethers. That is the most subtle element that exists, the ethers. Those information that is like in this plasma, in this ocean of all there is, this unified field. So it's through those states of consciousness that we get into that knowledge. And now I'm going to get into the definition of enlightenment as by Wikipedia. So enlightenment as by the West means being illuminated by acquiring new wisdom and understanding. So when you acquire new wisdom and understanding, so through that dissolution, we can merge into the cosmic ocean or the ethers or the Akashic field or the unified field, is when we can tap into those knowledges that are beyond our understanding, that we can see and feel and understand from your five senses. In hypnosis, when you get into those states, because there's, like I say, there's many different states of hypnosis, and what I work, the technique that I use in hypnotherapy is I take people into their subconscious mind first. We might see things from the past. For those who believe in past life, you can go into a past life. You can go into a memory from childhood. You can even go into a memory of a womb life. And consciousness goes beyond materiality. I don't know if that word exists in English, but I've seen in my work that people go into life in the womb, or they go back into their birth, and they can see the clothing the mother were wearing. They can see what doctor were in the room, even though they're still inside the belly. So it's like when you have an out of body experience, for instance, and you can, I have done that myself. You can see things from a different perspective. So imagine that your brain is like a radio. You think that our thoughts and ideas are inside our brain. But what if our brain is like a radio that can tune in with the ideas and information and wisdom, cosmic wisdom, that are written in this plasma like maybe a being, like this oceanic information. So when we say that I'm going to tune in, what I'm doing is really tune in this instrument of this physical body so I can tune with the celestial music or knowledge or information of the cosmos. There's a whole movement of enlightenment that was in the 17th and the 18th century. That was a philosophical and science. There was the science revolution, and started in France, and it spread it into United States and other places. I know that philosopher Descartes was one of the person much involved with this movement, and Isaac Newton. That was the time when these philosophers were trying to separate the reason and the individuality from the monarchy. So there, and the religion, the organized religion. So they're saying, okay, we can think for ourselves. They all developed theories of government in which some or even all the people would govern. Imagine that. So they wanted to get out of the monarchy and the control of the Catholic Church, and they came up with all those solutions of how an individual could rule and how we all could rule the society. And how can we all rule the society is by enlightenment. And they call this movement the Enlightenment movement. And I have been talking about this and thinking about this for ages. When people tell me, oh, do you believe in like politics? And like, no, but I only believe in one politics, which is in the real sense and the word of the word politics. When only the individual can grow in the values of love and understanding and knowledge, then the true politics can exist. When we are not deep rooted in that space of love, how can be fair politics? It cannot. And the problem is not outside, it's not in the rulers. The problem is in the collective consciousness. So if all of us do the internal work, the inner work, to get into that space of enlightenment, then there won't be need to anyone else to rule. And that brings us back into the beginning. And I'm almost done with this thought. But imagine if we're all enlightened, if we all can practice these things and get into that union, into that connection with our higher self, with the world, the invisible realms, the invisible world, awaken the totality of our capacity, our brain capacity, then we are free. Then is when we get sovereignty. This is how I say hypnosis for evolution. But there is not, we're talking about the end, but there's not end without the beginning. So the beginning starts with ethical rules, yama and yama. So remember, the 8 limbs of enlightenment starts with yamas and yamas. So yamas are the don't, the things that we should not do. And maybe, we start like a baby. Mama needs to tell the baby what is right, what is wrong, right? And then when the baby grow and already know what is wrong, mama doesn't need to tell the baby what is wrong. So we can say when we are enlightened, the yamas and yamas are silly. But if we're just in the beginning of the path, the yamas and yamas are very important. So for some people, enlightenment is when you can get into that much knowledge and understanding of the removal of the veil completely, so you don't even need to reincarnate, and you're free from the wheel of samsara, of life and death.